Hello, everyone. We are live from many places in the world: Dakota, New Zealand, Vancouver. Uh, yeah, so let's get started here with Blocktalk. We got an amazing show with probably my favorite coin in the communities, um, Jumbucks. Let me just start off by doing the Bitcoin block number because someone complained that I never do that anymore, and for good reason, I guess. Now we're getting really close to that happening. 401 512. We'll get there shortly. And then we got a sponsor, Coinigy. You can support the show by signing up today at coinigy.com/blocktalk. They're a fantastic team there, and I'll be meeting up with them in 2 days, driving out to Milwaukee. So I'm super excited for that. And if you guys have any questions for us during the show, I'll be monitoring the troll box here, and just give us a shout. So without further ado, hi, everyone. I'm Alex, and I'm here with our special guest, Luke Williams.
Yeah, hi everyone.
So, Luke, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, because for those who don't know, you are, I guess, one of the developers for Jumbucks.
I've been a core developer of Jumbucks alongside Julian for quite some time now. Um, Most people probably know me better for Equitas Explorer, the open source block explorer that gets used by a fairly large number of coins. And working on some fairly cool stuff at the moment.
So
Quite
you
excited
are
about the
you're a full-time crypto developer, are you, or do you have some other projects besides crypto?
full-time crypto now. Sort of transitioned to full-time crypto late last year, and now have a full-time job working on crypto.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic
then, yeah,
news. I think that's going to be the growing trend for a lot of guys who found themselves working part-time on some fun projects and are now going far more in depth. Having blockchain on your resume certainly makes you an in-demand asset.
no, yeah, definitely. There's a huge amount of opportunities, growing industry, and there's a lot of skill around. So it's just people just need to, yeah,
So I
hang in
guess,
there and wait for things to happen.
oh yeah, like well, with this whole Ethereum thing going on, I'm starting to see banks now with business cards that say blockchain consultant. So it's happening.
Yeah, no, definitely. Um,
Yeah. And
Easier in some countries than others, but it's happening.
well, it all depends on the regulation too. I know in Canada we're very fortunate that we're welcoming crypto with open arms, but I think for Australia and New Zealand it's a bit more there's a bit more fight.
Yeah, it's been a bit challenging, especially the last 6 months. We've had sort of banks cracking down a bit, freezing exchanges, accounts, and things like that. So the landscape here is a little bit more challenging than it could be. Um, and then also just being a developed country with to the most part, working monetary system and transaction systems, there isn't really a whole lot of incentive for people to be very interested or sort of want to move to better systems.
Uh, so cash is still pretty much king in New Zealand.
We really don't use cash that much here. We've been using FPOS, which is sort of card-based payment system that all stores sort of accept, um, and that works pretty well. And so most people are happy with it. It's not too many issues, just unnecessary fees and delays on transfers between banks and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
this the
it works
same
for the most part.
rigmarole that we're all used to with like Visa and all these major credit card chains.
Yeah, yeah, same sort of thing. So now I'm seeing a lot more potential at the moment in countries that are struggling a bit more economically, I guess. They've got a bit more incentive to look at other options, and I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity and potential going on there. So, yeah, I'll be leaving New Zealand in the next couple of months, back and forth between here and Europe quite a bit at the moment. Um,
Yeah, no, that'll be very exciting.
yeah, I'm quite excited about it. There's a lot more opportunity potential, and yeah, a lot more people interested in crypto elsewhere. Here it's very small. Um,
Yeah, yeah, no, I had that same feeling when I was living in Ontario, and I was the only one who knew about Bitcoin. And then going out to Vancouver, I was so excited when I was spending the whole past year there with the crypto scene is just so developed there. It's really hard to step away from it. But I know I'll be back during the summertime, hopefully right around the block halving. Um, so I guess for anyone who's not too familiar with Jumbucks and your involvement with it, do you think you can give us like kind of a brief history of like how Jumbucks started and like what your involvement was in it from the beginning?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, as many will know, Jumbucks was launched as CoinMarket's Coin by Julian, um, and then quickly rebranded to Jumbucks. So I wasn't really involved at that point in time. I was off doing other things, Equitas Explorer, and helping out with a few other coins. Sort of at the time, I was getting a bit frustrated with all these other coins. I was trying to build services and platforms that sort of use their blockchains, and then the devs would abandon the coins, and I'd sort of be left there with stuff that runs on a blockchain that's no longer being maintained. So that was getting quite frustrating, and I was sort of at the point where I was going to launch my own coin just so I had something stable to work on, and that I could sort of rely that no one was going to abandon it. But then sort of a good friend of mine got me in touch with Julian, and we sort of had a bit of back and forth, and sort of saw eye to eye on a lot of things, and sort of our skill sets also complement each other very well. Sort of focus on different languages and different aspects of development. So yeah, teamed up, and things have been going pretty well since. So I tend to focus more on sort of services and that side of things, and the RPC server inside the coin. And Julian tends to do a bit more of the heavy lifting with the proof of stake and stuff like
that. So, like for you and Julian, it seems like Julian, I guess, is maintaining the chain, but you're just doing a lot of the services on top of it.
Yeah, it's to the most part, yeah. If you look at the GitHub, most of my pushes are to do with the RPC server, which is, for those that aren't familiar, it's how third-party services and applications interact with the wallet and blockchain. And so most of my wallet changes tend to be around that area where I'm trying to get more data out of the wallet so I can do some sort of functionality with a service that I couldn't do before. Things like that, or just tidying things up, making things more consistent. Julian tends to do more of the proof of stake stuff and back-end sort of network things.
And I'm sure we're going to see lots of new developments on the chain side. I know Julian's got big plans for keeping us in the loop with proof of stake and how to advance that further.
Yeah, no, we've got some big plans. Probably won't go into too much detail. We're still weighing up different options and doing a lot of experiments and sort of tests just to see what's going to work better. But yeah, there's going to be some major changes to Jumbucks in the future, making a lot more things possible. We've got a very, very healthy network and a very, very sort of just stable community and things like that. Everything's going really well, but there's using these old proof of stake coin bases is a little bit restrictive in a lot of ways. They forked from Bitcoin a long time ago. It's difficult to sort of port some of the newer BIPs over, things like that. So we just want to sort of tidy that all up, get into a fresher code base that we can work on a lot more effectively.
I was just noticing one of my tweets that went out about the show is in Spanish. I have no idea how that happened. It's so strange. It sounds like Greg is back. Greg, how you doing?
Hey.
So Greg is a Vancouverite that we've met before, and I think he's been on a couple shows with me before.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm usually better informed as to the subject matter. I'm not too familiar with Jumbucks, but hopefully my questions will provide some insight to the other people who know as little as I do. Regarding the progress of the project, is there a roadmap that's visible?
We don't really have a public roadmap at the moment. We're working on sort of quite a few different things. We should probably put something together, I guess. For those that sort of want to stay up to date, really the Jumbucks Slack is where most people get their information from. We try and keep everyone updated there.
Okay. Do you find there's a lot of community involvement in the project, or is it really just, I don't know, I've been looking at a lot of altcoins, and they can very easily be overwhelmed by speculators and not just people who are interested in the project. And I'm wondering I guess, how you're managing that. It seems like, putting out information as to what you're doing is really important to get people engaged. But at the same time, if you're like banging the drum too much and raising a lot of profile, then you start to attract all the speculators, and that can be detrimental, I think, to a coin project, because it really increases the volatility and it detracts from the actual work that's being done and shifts the focus to the price. Do you feel like you have a good balance there, and like what are you doing to sort of make sure that enough information is getting out so that the real investors are aware, but you're not necessarily overdoing it?
Yeah, both me and Julian don't really tend to focus too much on the price. The market will do what it does, and we're sort of more interested in developing cool stuff. We do have a pretty good balance. The community is really great. We have a lot of involvement there. We had fantasy football league not too long ago that went quite well. There's quite a decent large amount of participation.
Cool.
That was sort of proposed and then ran by one of the community members, Saint Germain. So that was great. So we've got a few things going on there with the community. We've got a beta running at the moment for our new whois service, just to get feedback and sort of more involvement with the community to try and figure out where they want us to head in the future and things like that. And we have a lot of discussions going on inside the Jumbucks channel and the Jumbucks Slack, just to keep everyone involved.
And the whois is why we're here today, I guess, is you got some exciting stuff. I know I demoed it a little bit earlier and made my profile already, but perhaps you can, I guess, show us a bit more.
Yes, I'm sure to do this, but let's talk about it briefly for a bit, I guess. So whois, it's our new service. It's currently in beta. It's a little obscure and it's trying to tackle a lot of different problems. So I sort of view it as a necessary component that sort of operates on a block explorer level as far as the infrastructure is concerned. We're putting together a new sort of fairly extensive ecosystem around Jumbucks, and this is the sort of first component that needed to exist. So we're dealing with online identity and also a new form of user verification, authentication and verification. So there's quite a bit going on here. There's a lot of potential use cases and different things we can do. Where's my screen gone there?
Well, if the main idea of the coin is all about community, then it seems like having people identify themselves in the community is a pretty good place to start.
Yeah, and there's a lot of use cases where we're going to need to deal with this. At the moment, there's a big incompatibility between sort of blockchain-based identities and physical, real-life identities. In the physical world, you have you're one person, one ID. In the blockchain world, you can spawn an infinite amount of IDs. So there's for certain applications like voting and things like that, we're going to have to deal with some way of attaching these Bitcoin addresses or Jumbucks addresses to a physical identity. Now, for many uses, obviously normal transactions, normal transfers and things like that, anonymity is great, and we don't really want to remove that in any way. So this is all optional. This is all you use addresses just for this purpose, just for voting, just for signing. You wouldn't use ones that you're actually using to send and receive coins with. And this means you can do a lot of things like, one thing focusing on is blockchain-based voting, something I'd like to do a lot more with in the future, and something that I'm quite sort of excited about, even though it's still currently in a bit of a crude form, is the user authentication that I've implemented with whois. So users don't supply an email address or a phone number or even a password. All of that's gone. You have your Jumbucks wallet. You provide a Jumbucks address, and when you go to log in, you're presented with a token. That token's unique and can only be used once. You sign that token with your Jumbucks address using the wallet. It verifies the signature and logs you in. So there's no personal information being stored anywhere. The only thing in the database is these tokens that are one use, and whatever information that the user decides to link to their profile, which is public anyway. So if the database was to get hacked or something, there's nothing that's actually useful in it anyway.
Okay. So how does this differ from OneName, who are on like the Namecoin chain, and they switched to the Bitcoin chain?
Slightly different angles, I guess. I've currently made whois. It's currently a centralized service, and I've done that intentionally. I think it's important that, at least for a transition phase, that we have something to bridge the gap between the decentralized world and the centralized world. Obviously, in the long run, it'd be nice if everything was decentralized, but we've got to transition there first. And one of the big problems with that is going to be centralized governments, because they're going to be one of the last things to go. So for voting for democracy, for example, we need something that can utilize a blockchain that can be is cheap to run an election, is cheap to run referendums, is very easy to audit, and can make sure no one's double voting or doing anything they're not supposed to be doing, but still needs to be centralized in the sense that the centralized government still has control and maintains that. So there's and that's a very, very big, more of a proof of concept for this use. I don't really see it going down there anytime soon, but maybe certain problems that get solved by whois will end up getting used in such a system. So with the user authentication, we're also we'll be building, because it has many uses. We can use it for 2FA, for example. So that's something that I'm working on at the moment. Currently for whois, it's used as the main form of authentication, but it works in combination with anything.
Well, and I know that's one area that Bill from Bittrex kind of expressed interest in, was even using it for 2FA to log in to like an exchange or something.
Yeah, well, it's actually, and one of the things that got me working on this was I had an issue a while back where one of my domains expired. I didn't get notifications, long story. But my main email address used that domain. And so all of my online accounts that were bound to that email address, I could no longer prove I was the owner. I could still log in just fine, but I couldn't change the email address, and I couldn't verify that it was actually the account owner to the service. And this caused a huge amount of trouble. Smaller companies were not much of a problem. They had flexibility enough for me to just send them screenshots of me logged into the account or whatever, or do things with IP addresses. But the larger ones, with less flexibility, just wouldn't do anything. All they could do was ask for photo ID, and unfortunately at the time I didn't have any photo ID, so it was a whole lot of hassle and a lot of frustration. And the whole time I was thinking, most of these services I have a SSH key bound to as well. I could verify myself with that, but they wouldn't accept that. But that's sort of what got me thinking about this, and thinking, well, in the crypto ecosystem, we're all running wallets of some type. They all have this functionality. We should just be using that, and get rid of all this other stuff. Get rid of third-party services. Get rid of when you're using an email address to verify you're the owner of an account, but you don't truly own the email address. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Whereas with private keys, you do actually own them. They're yours. In theory, no one else should have them. So it just makes a lot more sense, in my opinion, at least, to sort of start heading down this route, at least in the crypto ecosystem. And as cryptography and private keys and public keys become more commonplace and more user-friendly, then expand out elsewhere as well.
Well, it seems like a natural step, yeah. Yeah, maybe I can even just show like the whois page that I signed up for, because if anyone wants to verify me, Sturkey, I'm sure they can easily see me how public I am. It's pretty easy to know who I am, but maybe it was someone less fortunate, then it'd be a little more difficult. So this was the page that I guess I signed up on, and yeah, I was able to verify a Bitcoin address and Jumbucks address, and then my Slack profile, and yeah. I think one of the users in the Slack described this as very Secret Service-like. It was pretty technical, I guess, for the initial sign-up. But I imagine this is just kind of getting the nitty-gritty down and making sure the actual core framework works, and then you're going to make it a little more user-friendly.
Yeah, so currently this the beta is mainly just to test the concept itself, whether people like it or not, whether it makes sense and whether any sort of small issues arise. So far everything is going pretty well. And yeah, we're working on a new UI for the Jumbucks wallet that will incorporate the authentication process into it in a much more user-friendly manner. People get a little bit scared looking at hashes and signatures, but to the most part that's all dealt with by your computer's clipboard anyway, so it's really just clicking some buttons, or will be at least.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the Slack integration because it seems like that's such commonplace now with not just crypto, but with a lot of small businesses and whatnot. Having Slack is they're a pretty great company. I'm excited to see where they end up going. So I think tying another boat is probably a pretty good idea.
Yeah, so currently you'll only verify your Jumbucks Slack account, but in the future we will support multiple Slacks and well, a lot more other things we'll be adding. Next will be Twitter and GitHub support. And yeah, also looking at other coins and things like that as well, having everything in one place so you can just, so it's going to sort of become identity of sorts, or link all of your different online identities together if you wish to do so. For most people, normal users, there isn't really a whole lot of incentive to do so. Most users benefit hugely from anonymity and should continue doing so. But for people that are working in the field, developers, anything like that, that sort of reputation is important, then something like this could be quite useful. And we had an issue a while back with a certain scammer trying to impersonate the Jumbucks developers and different other people in the community. So things like this can help eliminate those issues.
Well, yeah, it happened recently where someone was trying to buy Ethereum off the exchanges, and I think he lost like 40 Bitcoins because there was like one character different in the name and of someone impersonating an Ethereum dev.
Yeah, it was actually there's one guy that's doing it really, really effectively. He's using the same trick every time. The capital I's and lowercase L's, depending on the font, look exactly the same. And it happens to be the default font of IRC Cloud, which a lot of people use for IRC.
Yeah.
So that's how he's doing it. And yeah, and I've gotten messages a few times, like on Twitter and something, and someone's DM'd me and asked, "Am I talking to you on IRC right now?" I said, "No, that's not me." But yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, and more sort of verification and processes will hopefully avoid that in the future.
Well, yeah, a good little PSA there for everyone to watch out on IRC. Don't be throwing any money at anyone. It's never really a good idea. Going to the questions here. So one of the developers from Syscoin wanted to know, I guess what's the difference between this and like Syscoin aliases? And I think there's a couple different projects that are doing aliases, but I guess it relates to the different uses. I think this just goes to this whole argument of like pseudo anonymous. Like, yeah, with Bitcoin you can kind of be anonymous, but it really like it doesn't serve criminals that well. If anything, it serves charities way better, like allowing you to be way more public and provable, I guess. Yeah, the more projects that are moving towards, I guess, building reputation services and publicity and everything like that, the better. So did you, I guess, have some demo screens or something you wanted to show us?
I have no idea how to share my
So on
screen.
the left side, there's a green toolbar.
Yep.
It's all right. Everyone's got to break their Hangouts, their bubble. Got to be a first.
Yeah, I've only actually used this for one other call in the past. All right, so I guess not really on the right computer to be doing that. I was going to run them through the authentication process, but I don't actually have a Jumbucks wallet on this computer. Not very prepared at all.
No, it's quite alright. No, it's all good. Like,
Yeah. I had to grab a computer with a webcam, and it's not the one I normally do anything on.
I see. Well,
Yeah.
the actual signing process. Well, I'm sure I'm gonna blow my internet connection out of the water here if I try and open my wallet. But the actual signing of a wallet address. So hopefully that's something that I guess most people watching the show are familiar with. But yeah, creating a hash or like signing an address. Like, I guess can you explain that process to us? Like, of actually proving you own an address or proving you own by messaging or signing a message.
Oh yeah. So how this is working currently is the signing is being used for both the user authentication and the verification of external accounts. And the verification of each type of account is done sort of in a unique way depending on that service. But it's all using Jumbucks signatures, just like the user authentication. So this is so essentially what happens is we'll go with the verification process. When you try and attach, say, your Slack account, it will provide you with a unique token for this particular link that you're trying to create. That token will include a small sort of just human-friendly message saying I am username at whois, and then there's also a unique randomly generated token attached to the end of that. So then you copy that into your Jumbucks wallet, you sign it with the address that is, or any of the addresses that are bound to your account. You select which one when you're creating the link. And it's just a normal message signing process. So this is using your Jumbucks private keys and public keys. And so that signature verifies that you are in fact the owner of that address that is bound to the account and that you have set up to link the thing. So for Slack, for example, you submit the signature via a bot that runs in the Slack. That communicates with the whois service and then pushes that signature through, verifies, and if it's valid, then the accounts are linked. The same applies for websites. You add a text file to the public directory of the website. It's just a JSON file. It has the address, a little bit of metadata, and the signature. And then whois uses that to verify that you are in fact someone that has authority to speak on behalf of that website, or to link that account. And the same will work for Twitter and GitHub as well, where Twitter you tweet the signature, GitHub you use just the signature. So yeah, this is all working with randomly based tokens that are stored in the whois database that then get signed by the Jumbucks wallet, and that signature gets submitted through whichever service you're trying to link. And this works reasonably well. It's
So I managed to get my Jumbucks wallet open here. Let's see if I can go through the login process to show it, because it is pretty interesting. I think visually people should be able to see. So yeah, here's the login page, and correct me if I'm doing anything wrong here, but I think you just copy the token and then you open the JBS wallet, but that's not showing. 1 second here. I gotta share my whole screen. Entire screen. Right, there we're going nice and meta. So we copy the token, and then I can sign a message, and that gives me this whole random string here, I guess. And then if this changes by like 1 letter, it changes everything completely. Like that's the whole hashing process. 1 bit will make an entire thing different. So if I go back to here, I should be able to just sign in. Ta-da! So that's kind of, I guess, how the whole system works, is based just on signing addresses and everything.
yeah. And that's how the user authentication works, and yeah, the verification of all of the linked accounts also works, or addresses. So you can link multiple Jumbucks addresses, multiple Bitcoin addresses. In the future, there will be support for other coins as well. And currently Slack and websites, and very shortly Twitter and GitHub, and we'll be rolling out more support for more third-party services as time goes on.
Well, Twitter is just a matter of using their API, or are you going to do something
Yeah.
like you send a message?
There's a number of ways that this can be done. It's really just a matter of, in some way, the user needs to send the signature via Twitter, just to confirm that they do own the Twitter account. And yeah, so this could be done just with a tweet or even a DM to a bot that's running on Twitter. I still haven't quite decided on which route to go down there yet. It's easy enough to do. It's just a matter of deciding and implementing it. GitHub's really easy. Yeah, GitHub's really easy. It's just you just use Gist, their sort of code sharing, text sharing service. And yeah, most services are pretty easy. You can send messages with most services. Some will require bots to be running like Slack does. Others won't, because whois has access anyway for anything that's being posted publicly.
Yeah, the Syscoin developer, he's asking questions again. It's like, since Bitcoin can already sign messages like you described, what makes Jumbucks different? Could this technology be applied to Bitcoin Core?
Yes, so there's none of this is anything new. It's existing technology being used for new things, I guess. Like the signing of messages, that's existed in Bitcoin for a very long time. That hasn't changed at all. Jumbucks is doing the exact same thing. When you verify a Bitcoin address inside whois, you use the Bitcoin signing process instead of Jumbucks one. It's all the same. So this authentication can easily be implemented with Bitcoin or any other coin. It's not really unique to Jumbucks as such. The verification process could easily use anything else as well. The reason for whois is to sort of start getting people thinking about these ideas, sort of hopefully allowing them to develop a bit more, getting them used more often. As well as being it's going to be a very core component of the sort of developing Jumbucks ecosystem that's going to rely on whois functionality for a lot of its stuff. For example, one of the services that will be coming maybe next, reasonably soon, I'm currently calling Verify, and this is heavily tied into whois. It uses it allows you to store file hashes and text statements on the blockchain. Or hashes of those statements on the blockchain, and signed with the Jumbucks addresses that can then be tied to your whois profile. So this is sort of to solve a problem that with file verification is I've never really been too happy with that process in general. Currently, it's pretty common practice to add a binary to a file host, and alongside that a text file including some MD5 hashes or SHA hashes or whatever. To verify that the file hasn't been corrupted during download or tampered with. And that works really great for that, but it doesn't really ensure that the file wasn't tampered with before the download and the hashes were replaced. If I uploaded a file to a server 2 months ago and now you're downloading it now, there's a lot of time there where someone could have breached the server, swapped those files out, updated the hashes with the new files of the backdoor binaries, and you wouldn't know any better. It's going to pass all the tests. And there are different methods to sort of solve this problem, but a lot of them rely on sort of third-party and central sort of systems that run by people I wouldn't necessarily trust to be doing such things. So this gets the file hashes off the server and puts them in the blockchain for starters, and then also does the referencing to the whois profile outside of that server. So in order to, so this is also accompanied with a desktop app that you just drag and drop files into. So for example, you'll download the Jumbucks wallet, drag it in there, and it will verify that it is in fact the Jumbucks wallet, and it is in fact signed by me and Julian. And that doesn't require any other files to be accompanied with the binary, just the binary itself. So certain things like that we're working on, just trying to. There's a lot of small problems that we solved in the past that we haven't sort of looked at, and there's much better solutions now, especially since crypto is sort of taking off. So there's a few just weird little things like that I've been sort of trying to focus on.
Well, yeah, it seems like yeah, and what you're doing, yeah, not anything quite so new, but it just we're moving in that right direction where we need everything needs to be encrypted, and we all need to take more steps to be more certified or to have better security. So the fact that you're taking this next step is really just showing that every coin should almost have this by standard. Aliases like I know I watched a video from the Daily Decrypt the other day where she was so pissed off about the network being so slow, but like one of the things she mentioned was like, oh, they have no aliasing system for their addresses yet. Like, how is crypto ever going to be mainstream and easy to use if like we can't get this whole next step of getting nice identities for make it easier to use, like get it kind of to that Facebook level of easy.
Yeah, well, currently, that's cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology in general just have a huge amount of potential, but it's still in that sort of crude, very user-friendly state where we're dealing with hashes, we're dealing with large numbers, just things that most normal people aren't really used to dealing with. It looks scary at first for a lot of users. And for most of us, we know how it all works. We took the dive a long time ago and sort of watched it grow since then. It's not too bad, but yeah, a lot of these things are going to have to become a lot more user-friendly for mass adoption. And then we also need to focus on the transition phase as well, because it's sort of, we can design new decentralized systems to replace the current ones. It's difficult, but it's not that difficult, in some cases at least. Where it gets very difficult is actually transitioning to them from the current centralized systems. Most people don't want to transition. Most people don't like change. And if nothing's horribly wrong, they're not really going to be too incentivized to put in the effort. So we definitely need to put in a lot more work with making things more user-friendly, just across crypto. And things like aliases, certain things that I'm working on with whois and other things for Jumbucks, I do expect to be used by all coins in the future in one way or another. Not necessarily my implementation, but the concept at least, or the problem needs to be solved. And we've had a lot of focus on, obviously, currency uses and things like that over the last few years, which is great because that's a very important factor. But there's a lot of other use cases for crypto in general that can improve the internet and just improve society as a whole. And that's sort of where I get a bit more interested and excited about, because money's great, but I don't know, like designing new systems, trying to make society more efficient.
Yeah, like so one thing I've seen mentioned in the Jumbucks Slack quite frequently is this new hybrid of proof of work, proof of stake developed by the Decred team, and I know Julian is watching it quite closely. Can you, I guess, kind of outline how this might all fit together?
Julian's probably the better one to talk to about that, but
I know, I give him a hard time. Like, why didn't you come in? But he's got kids, you know.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah. No. So for those who aren't familiar with Decred, it's a reasonably new project. Yeah, it's introduced a new form of proof of stake, proof of work hybrid, where instead of a block being proof of work or proof of stake, it's sort of both. It's proof of work that gets approved by proof of stake, or validated by proof of stake. So this is an interesting concept because you sort of have the best of both worlds. You have the added security of a large, healthy mining network, as well as the long-term benefits and stability of proof of stake. And I do sort of see hybrids probably being more of the direction things go in the future. For that very reason, it's a good balance. And yeah, Decred, Julian's been very involved with Decred. It's one of the code bases, and certain aspects of Decred are things we're exploring for Jumbucks in the future. We're still weighing up other options as well and looking at other things, but it's definitely something that we're both sort of keeping an eye on and quite interested in.
Oh yeah, in terms of like this whole altcoin spring that we're going on, I'm really watching it closely as well. I kind of look at it almost very similar to Ethereum in a way where it launched the network very strong, but everything was still command line. Like there's no front end. It's all developers still playing with it. So I guess as we start seeing more polished things coming out for it, the public will start to understand the importance of it.
Yeah, and I thought this with Ethereum as well, where it sort of seems like they launched a bit too early, but it's working out, I guess. Um,
Well,
I probably would have waited a bit longer and waited and had a nice UI and stuff, but
we'll see in what is it, 2 weeks here when Homestead launches, and then all those crowd sale people can figure out how to import their purchases and send them to exchanges,
yeah,
or burn them all into a contract. Who knows?
it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
But all the stuff that's going on this spring, I'm extremely bullish on crypto. Like there's a lot of cool stuff happening.
There's a lot of cool stuff happening. It's slightly frustrating because there's some of it I can't talk about just yet, but yeah, I'm very excited for the future of altcoins specifically. I mean, Bitcoin's got a great future too, but there's some big stuff happening in the altcoin world. Things are going to affect mass adoption in a fairly large way, so I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, we'll start seeing some coins sort of start competing near the Bitcoin level.
So
maybe not for a while yet, but
have you signed some NDAs about your new crypto job that you can be hinting to us at all of what you might be doing in the future?
Yes. I can't. Yeah, no, I can't talk about too much just yet. There will be in about a month or so. I guess I'll be able to talk about one of the projects I'm working on as part of that job. And that's something that has me very excited.
All right, well, blink the ticker and Morse code for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good to hear. Like I say, I'm glad we're seeing more employment opportunities in terms of the crypto space because that's a really good, healthy sign. Like I know guys that are just getting out of school and they're already getting hired on as Ethereum developers or like blockchain consultants. So, like, yeah, it's a good time to be exploring that in CS programs.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of opportunity for any developers in the crypto world, or not just developers, but just people with any skill set in general. Yeah, like just if you don't, it's a little bit difficult because there's no qualifications. You can't really go get a degree in cryptocurrencies and things like that. So it's a bit of a weird landscape to be looking for jobs in. Like I got asked for a CV at one point, and I just sort of laughed because I haven't had a CV in probably 5-6 years. But for those that are like looking at getting and looking for jobs in the crypto space, I'd recommend doing something similar to what I did. I did a lot of work for free at first, just open source projects, Equitas Explorer, for example. That got my name out there a bit, and now I don't have too much trouble looking for work.
Well, and when I see a lot of these altcoins, like it's really easy to just look at them like it's a graphic designer with his portfolio. Like, oh yeah, I made this coin once. It was a pretty healthy network, and then yeah, I left it alone. It might still be going. I don't really know. But like when you actually can have like the economic backing behind your project too, I think that shows a lot more that you're able to develop a strong network that has both security and development. There's a lot to say there. I noticed you got a mask in the back corner there of the frame.
Oh, I do too.
Any comment on that or of your political tie-ins?
Pre-crypto.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine. No, I think everyone that's in the crypto space maybe has like a healthy distaste of authoritative figures. Maybe not like a hostile distaste towards authority, but definitely just like that subtle resistance.
Oh, definitely. It's very strong in the crypto landscape. There's a lot of sort of libertarians and yeah, just people that aren't too happy with the status quo, I guess. I guess that's what drawn a lot of us to crypto in the first place. As a sort of potential solution to many of problems we see in the world.
Well, and I've mentioned in like some of the videos that I'm doing right now is like I view Bitcoin or crypto in general as like a three-sided triangle, you know, like Illuminati confirmed. But Bitcoin has three parts. Like it's political, it's economical, and then it's technological. Like these are three main areas where it's revolutionizing everything. Like it's being very new and shifting the paradigm. Like it's a completely new governance model. It's gonna put us on the right track in terms of economics, and then it's gonna reshape the way all computers run in terms of technology. At least that's my feelings.
Oh, no, I entirely agree. There's a huge potential here to redesign a lot of the systems we've been using. Blockchain technology is just really revolutionary. Really, it's provides a much better solution to a lot of problems. It's just a matter of sort of convincing people to put in the effort and swap to these new systems, or in some cases, just getting more people involved in developing them.
So, what's your opinion on this? On everyone's, I guess, or a lot of the publicity that's coming to Bitcoin on like the crypto locker software, ransomware software that we're seeing springing up more.
A bit conflicted. Like, I don't like that it's going on, and obviously seeing people get their files encrypted like that and sort of scammed out of Bitcoin is not good. But at the same time, I sort of give the guy credit. It's well played on his part. It's interesting, and it's I'm not really too sure what people can really do about it. Just be smarter about downloading files. Don't use Windows. Probably be a big one.
Oh yeah.
But
well, from what I hear is some of the
day.
guys doing it have wonderful customer service.
Oh, that's the thing that cracks me up about it is if you actually contact them, they're great. They'll help you with all your troubles except unlocking your files until you pay.
Yeah. Well, and now you don't have to try and find, like, if you're the person who hacks these systems, you don't have to, I guess, find someone who finds the data valuable. You can now make the people who find it valuable pay you for it. So again.
Oh, exactly. And people, family photos, things like that, are very valuable to people that don't have them backed up. And that tends to be the targets, is now you can sort of squeeze money out of normal families because their data is actually worth something. And that's a bit strange thing that all going on. Obviously, all I can recommend really is back your important stuff up and
don't open .exe files from emails.
Yeah, just be a bit smart about using the internet.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. Well, maybe once like computers can get to another level of Facebook easy, or one of the people who don't know how to use a computer to that level, maybe once they all start dying off, when the next generation comes through, then these problems will go away. But I don't know. You got to get a lot more computer literacy going out there. Like programming should be taught as a second language rather than Spanish or something random.
Yeah, well, I've been arguing that one for quite some time. Even just basic scripting, people should be learning how to actually make a computer do something. Right now, most users can use a computer and do what it allows them to do, but they can't really tell it what to do. It's a sort of a situation where I'm able to read but not write. It seems a bit strange. It needs to be balanced out a bit, and not being able to create your own content, not being able to sort of control or edit other people's content, is very restricting in today's world. People should be learning how to create content in some way.
Yeah, like I know, like I've always been kind of computer literate, but like my background has always been kind of like getting progressively more complex. Like I just started learning about like electricity, and then eventually it got to the complexity of rather than a light switch, it's like binary bits in a computer. But like I've always loved assembly like language, just with how basic it can be. But now getting into C and some of the other stuff, it makes my head spin. That's why I'm kind of happy to be going back to something a little more tangible with my hands. But we're gonna get to that point. Let's see what the comments are saying here. What's the best language to learn dealing with crypto?
Oh, that's probably quite debatable. I guess it depends on what you want to do. I mean, if you're working on wallets, then the most existing code bases are C++. So that's quite useful. For anyone that codes in C++, it's frustrating. It's not the nicest thing to be writing in, but it is very efficient and it does its job very well. I tend to do most of my stuff in Node.js for web services and things like that operate on top of the blockchain. I just happen to like it. Golang is another one that I'd possibly recommend. I'd probably stay away from Ruby, but that's more of a personal preference than anything.
I hear very binary opinions about Ruby. Like, there's the people who just absolutely love it, and then there's people who just have a healthy distaste for it.
Yeah, there isn't really much of a middle ground with Ruby. It's just you're either in the Ruby camp or you're against it. The language itself isn't that bad. It's pretty good. It's just the environment that you need to set up to make it work. There's a lot of a lack of backwards compatibility. All the gems are very annoying to maintain. Running multiple Ruby applications in the same environment can get very problematic if they require different versions of stuff. And there's just a lot of hassle that you don't tend to encounter with some of the other languages and environments.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the programmers that I've met in Decentral, like Node.js is what they use for a lot of their projects. Otherwise, like going really basic, like Python seems to be really good for getting like learning the legs of programming, and that's kind of like the most complex I've got to. It's like Python.
Yeah, well, normally I'd recommend people start learning on the sort of Python or Perl level. Just doing basic scripting on your system, automate some stuff, make it do some things, make some scripts run on startup that do some things, just basic stuff, and then just sort of develop up from there.
I remember I wrote there was a thing on my work computer at GM. Whenever like my boss or the guy I was working with clicked on it was Internet Explorer was the icon, but it would always open up his CD drive. So he just like clueless to it. It's like fuck, like he just walked away from his computer one time. I did the swap, and yeah, it makes me laugh every time it happened. And then he never figured it out. He just kept going to the start menu. He's like, this one works. I don't know why that one doesn't work.
Even things like that. I mean, I sort of started out with just modding games was where I first started. I had to learn some basic scripting for that, and then I got heavily into Linux. So I was doing a lot of sort of scripting for that. Did a lot of work with dependency resolution, and occasionally get obsessed with weird problems. So that was one of them. Things just evolved from there. Just keep at it, write more code, come up with projects that will maintain your interest the entire time as you actually finish them, but also you learn things from. Like for example, I wanted to learn how the blockchain worked, so I wrote a block explorer. It was great, and I learned a lot about inner workings of the blockchain, and made something useful in the process. So that was quite cool. So projects like that are quite useful.
Yeah, someone just said I was a dick for my project. One of the other things I did to him, I popped the key off his keyboard and I switched M and N around, and then he couldn't log in. He actually had to call IT because he kept locking his computer. He was one of those like single finger, had to look at the letter typers.
Oh no.
That was a fun time. But Linux, I think, is a good bet for anyone who wants to get it more. I think like they actually want to, drive the car rather than, have the autopilot on, or
definitely. I used to be a huge user of Slackware Linux, which is one of the less user-friendly ones, I guess. But it sort of forces you to get under the hood and learn how things work and do things yourself a bit. So I'd recommend that if anyone wants to learn Linux, install Slackware, and you're sort of forced to learn pretty quick. And the
Sorry, it's
community
called
there is pretty good as well.
Slackware?
Slackware. It's one of the old, well, actually is the oldest Linux distribution that's still maintained. So it's called Slackware. The development team's really good. They know what they're doing, and it looks a little crude and might scare a few people away at first. But if you want to actually learn how things work, I'd highly recommend it.
So how does that differ really from like Ubuntu?
A lot of sort of just basic decisions on how the system's been designed. So Ubuntu, for example, has apt. You install things, apt-get install. It has built-in dependency resolution and things like that. Slackware, you tend to do that more yourself. It has no native dependency resolution, so you have to figure out what other packages this requires. You sort of have to actually learn how all the different tools in the back end of the system are all linked together. You also have to compile things for yourself a lot, so you just get comfortable with compiling and building things for the system. You just have to do things more manually, a lot more, I guess. So it's good for learning.
Okay, interesting.
Package management system is very straightforward. It's just essentially zip files with a small little script inside. So they keep things really basic, so you can sort of see how it all works. And it's incredibly secure and stable as well. They tend to keep things back a little bit, not so cutting edge, just so they can make sure everything is stable. So I'd highly recommend it if people want to sort of get their hands dirty in Linux.
That's good to hear. Well, and if anyone, I guess, has more questions for you after seeing this a couple days later, you can always join the Jumbucks Slack. We have a programming channel where these questions are welcomed with open arms.
Oh yes, definitely. We have some good discussions going on there as well. So yeah, definitely come in and ask some questions. Everyone's always keen to sort of chat about stuff.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier with that whole triangle, like you can usually map people on like one or closer to two corners, but I think with JBS we're like right in the middle. Like you get the political discussion, you get the technological like programming and then like there's always the trading talk that happens in the back, and that's what I'm trying to I guess look for and strive to bring into the community is like we need to be not get too polarized or whatever the trifecta term of that is in terms of crypto. Like we need to look at all facets of it because it is so many different things. So, I'll continue showing the JBS Slack every episode because it's one of my favorite places to check in.
It's a great community. We've got some great people in there, and we have some awesome conversations. I highly recommend anyone that's not in there should jump in there. It's not just Jumbucks. We talk about everything. There's a Jumbucks specific channel, but everything else is anything goes. You can talk about whatever coin you want. That's fine. We try and sort of stay pretty lax with moderation. The only people that have been banned are people trying to scam other users. Everything else goes. So it's a good environment and stirs a lot of interesting discussions and talks. And we've got people from all walks of life, developers, traders, just people that are interested, people running different services and exchanges, things like that. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think on that note, maybe we can do how we always wrap up every show here. Frenchie, the next Bitcoin altcoin trading show, it will be with Coinigy on Wednesday, and I'll probably be there in person with Will. But we need to find out what you think the price will be next week for Bitcoin. That's what's going to be important here, Luke. Above all else, we need to hear what your opinion is in a week's time.
Where are we at?
Well, let's look at the chart from last week. And Sebastian was watching, and I think just from the beginning and the end of the show, Sebastian might have lost because he guessed 404, and then Dan was 405, and now we're at 407. I think I said on the last show we need. It was an hour ago. Oh man, that's a tight. That candle's right in between. I'll let them two fight it out, but I'm pretty sure Sebastian won. But right now we are at 407 on Phoenix, and see where we are in a week's time next Sunday. No, we're drawing a pretty crazy triangle right now, but I'm gonna say we're probably gonna be on the top side of the triangle at like 4:30.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
You're gonna go 29 or you're gonna go 31?
I'll be optimistic and we'll go 440.
4:40, and Greg might have pieced out on us, but we'll give him one last opportunity to speak up here. We'll take him off mute. Maybe we can hear some goofy noises in his background. Oh, he has to take off mute. Damn. Okay. Well, I think on that note, we can probably wrap this up. But the whois service. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
395.
395. Ooh, so bearish. And Greg, do you have any last questions for Luke? Or?
No, but this was great. Thank you for joining and sharing everything. It was really good.
No problem.
I'm sure we'll pick a better time frame here where we can have Julian on too, because we need to hear more from him as well. I think the two of you guys are doing some really cool work here, not just in developments, but at least in community and the education of crypto. That I'm fully supportive of what you're doing. So yeah, I look forward to having a chat with you two in the future and seeing what you guys come up with.
Awesome. No, yeah, I'll look forward to coming on again sometime when we've got more stuff to talk about.
All right. Well, best of luck in your travels, wherever you're going and whomever you're working for. And yeah, we'll hopefully hear more.
Yeah, no, back to Spain tomorrow, and then should have an announcement to make near the end of the month to at least show something that I've been working on for the new job anyway.
Oh well, say hi to the senoritas for me.
Oh, don't worry, I will. plenty of them. All right.
We'll end the broadcast here, and maybe we'll have a little chat afterwards. But this has been really fun, and everyone watching at home, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next 1,000 blocks.